Okay, folks, we're finally going to put out the Rage of Elements video. It took us some time. We had a couple of things come up. It is what it is. You know, we also work for a living. But I got my notes, and I got my book, and I think we also have the PDF, but I'm really liking this camera thing we have going on here, which you're going to see in just a second. Whoa! So I really want to mess with that, so physical book, physical Steve, physical video. I'm an idiot. All right, and like I said before, we are going to be talking about an overview of the Rage of Elements book. There's a couple of things we've got to talk about this book. Not only the cool stuff that it brings to Pathfinder 2nd Edition, stuff that may have been missing in your games, but also this is the first book that is fully lined up to work with a new remastered or a new core, whatever they're going to eventually call it, the new redesign of the Pathfinder 2nd Edition system. So a lot of the words in here are going to match up with the preview of the remastered edition. Like I said, whatever they end up calling it. So there's going to be a lot of information in here about those changes and ways that you can start converting your game over if you so choose. But everything that is in this book will still work in the current Pathfinder system. It'll just, some stuff will be missing, some stuff will have names changed, but it will all effectively work from a mechanics standpoint. What is about the world? Why are their elements so mad? They're raging. So we're going to go through a little bit of lore. We're also going to go over the new class. They have new ancestries, backgrounds, a multitude of stuff. This is very much akin to the primal version of the Secrets of Magic book that came out. So it has a lot of chunky lore in it, and it has stuff written and as the first person of the character that wrote the thing, or a character that experienced the thing. So it's written from a first person, from the fictitious standpoint of these characters, which I really do enjoy. I enjoyed it in Secrets of Magic, and I wanted them to do more, and they're doing more in this book. Well, first things first, we're going to take a look at the beautiful cover artwork, and I can hope that I can avoid my camera glaring the crap, my light glaring the crap out of the cover of this book. But yeah, another beautiful piece of artwork, and we're going to see beautiful artwork throughout the book. As we see here, we have the book of we have the pictures of how the planes are arranged in the new way that the planes are. And actually, originally there were 4 planes, and all of a sudden there's 2 more planes. If you actually look here, we have the wood plane only coming up in bits and bobs here, and then we have the metal plane also encroaching on only a couple of planes. They're not actually completed yet. They've been suppressed for a long time due to lore reasons. And now that they're trying to basically come back out because a couple of things that happened with a couple of, especially the Pathfinder Society, had a big to do about it. We also have this picture right here. It shows you how the planes are stacked together from the void plane all the way to the vitality plane, which I believe that's what this is. And this is how all the planes are arranged. You know, you have Elysium and you have the Abyss and all those different planes and how they're arranged in the world, and all the physical planes are smack dab in the middle there. Yeah, cool stuff. Really dope artwork, really cool stuff. And like I said, we're going to flip through. We're going to do this fast and dirty. If you want to take a look at the table of contents, if you've watched another video at this point, because we are late to the game, you have cool things. Obviously here you're going to see a bunch of these. Explanation of rules. It's going to tell you that you can go to the core preview, which I talked about before. We actually have a video on that. You may have something up in the card, you know, up here, up here. Yeah, there'd be a thing. And then a lot of different lore about this. But like I said, this goes into the changes that are made, some of the renaming or removing of things. Like I said, keep your eyes out for these things. That it kind of helps you along throughout the book. The beginning parts of this really go into, like I said, the first person perspective of this person right here, which is Aziza Amani, and her knowledge of the planes and how they're structured. And she also talks about her teacher that taught her all the different stuff about the planes. Like I said, we're not going to go through page by page, but yet again, this goes into the idea of Secrets of Magic, where it goes into the Concordance and what they did and how they managed to help the planes. And if they didn't do what they did with the Pathfinder Society, we may not have a universe. Yeah, as this picture explains here, how kind of the innosphere and all those different outer planes kind of exist in relation to one another, and also how the inner sphere planes kind of are structured. Yeah. Oh yeah, it's called Creation's Forge. I'm sorry, it's not the Vitality. That's the type of damage you would do if you were doing like health damage, like you hit an undead with a healing spell. It's Vitality damage. I know that was the Void just because, you know, it's Void. I highly suggest you read a lot of this lore and really go in depth into the lore of the planes. Effectively, this is about the planes. Now, the one thing that I remember from way back when playing D&D and all that stuff is that eventually you get such a high level, you start traversing planes and going to different planes. And this book really can aid you on how that would be structured in a game that's starting to crest beyond the material plane. You go into the plane of fire, plane of earth, that they actually have societies, and they're not just all earth, they're not just all fire. There's actually physical societies and buildings and structures and stuff like that inside these planes. And also how the borders of these planes, when they border another one of these elements, and how that really interacts. Yeah, there's a lot of cool lore in here, especially useful for someone who's wanting to dive into that kind of gameplay. And we want to either play a character that goes into these planes, or maybe you're playing a character that came from these planes or has a connection to these planes, because we're going to get into 2 ancestries that this book includes in just a second. So the first thing here, we're not going to go too in depth, but we have the new class, the Kineticist. A lot of people have been calling this basically the Avatar class, but you can really even use this to, if you didn't want to play a spellcaster, but you want to be spellcaster adjacent, I would highly suggest looking at the Kineticist. Now, the Kineticist can basically, they have gates. Those gates allow them to connect with one or more of those planes. Remember, there's 6 planes now. There's earth, air, fire, water. There's wood, and then there's metal. Metal. Obviously, the key thing here is I believe is the first class to have Constitution as their key ability score. Obviously, they have 8+ Constitution modifier, which is probably a balancing step. If they made them D10s, they'd probably just be better fighters. So that's why they balance it out with the D8s. They have, like I said, if you want an in-depth video, we can always make an in-depth video. We're just going to thumb through quickly. The cool thing is that they have a lot of feats. Because not only do they have your generic feats as you just have your class feats, and they have, just regular, it seems, the feats seems pretty sparse. Well, yeah, well, also they can take impulse feats, which are element dependent. So these are the air feats, and there's a multitude of air feats. Then they have the earth feats here, and you can only take these if you have access to these types of parts of your class. When you generate your class, you're going to make some choices. You may have only access to earth and fire. You may only have access to water alone. You don't have access to everything. As you level up, you can either gain more levels. As you gain more levels, you can choose to get more gates and more access to different elements, or you can choose to strengthen your benefit to one of those gates. And you want to be the super fire person, you can be the super fire person, or you can dip in from fire into another of the elements. Metal, they have a whole bunch of metal feats, and they have water feats and as wood as well. And the cool thing here that I think is awesome is that you have composite impulses. Now, we haven't gotten to what impulses are, but it's when you have a special mover action that you can do with one of your elements, that you have to have your element kind of activated at the time that you use it. And the cool thing is that you have to have all the elements that are listed in the description here and in the trait. So this one, lightning rod, you have to have metal and air, and then you're allowed to take a lightning rod. Like I said, if you want to be a steam knight, you have to have fire and water, and then you can take the steam knight feat. So these are level 4 and level 6 only, but they scale like spells. A lot of these impulses and a lot of the effects that you get for the Kineticist scale like spells you would as if you were a spellcasting class. So they actually have the, let's see here, at level 16, it gains a bunch of resistance instead of whatever the base resistance is. If you look at some of the lower level ones, every 3 levels, you get an extra D12 of electricity damage on this one. Like I said, we're not going to too many of these, but like I said, these are spells without spell slots, effectively. If you ever wanted to, like I said, play spellcaster, but you didn't want to mess with all that stuff, This is effectively similar to the Magus, how the Magus has to juggle whether they're charged up for their spell strike or not. The spell strike I know requires spells, but the idea of the spell striking part is, are you charged to spell strike or are you not charged? You have to spend actions to charge up. This is very similar to this, where you have to like focus on your element and get your element kind of charged up around you, and then certain abilities you're going to do are going to decharge you because they're too powerful, and you kind of like blow up your elements around you, and then you can always spend actions to recharge yourself. So very similar to what we've seen before, but really focused on those elements. And obviously we're starting to dip into the two new elements here, metal and wood. So yeah, stay tuned for a complete video on the Kineticist. I mean, we're definitely going to do a whole video on it. Cool thing is, because that they're adding and changing how elements work, they're adding in new elemental eidolons and adjustments to the eidolons for the summoner class, as well as elemental companions. So if you're a druid or a ranger who wants, like, man, I really have a connection to the metal plane or the wood plane, you can go through and get elemental creatures as your companion. So there are rules for that as well. These are familiars. These are new elemental familiars that you can take. So you can have a mood cloud, an elemental wisp, an elemental. We're going to get to scamps in just a second. So these basically just new choices for people who want to mess with familiars. And then you got obviously, they go through those choices. I think that's really cool. You know, just this is making elements more, and especially when you're talking about some of these elements didn't exist before. Like I said, I keep screwing this up. Wood and metal. Because some of these didn't have rules before, because they technically always existed, but those planes were suppressed. So elemental scamps are a rewording of the methods of yesteryear, of current actually. But right now they are called fire method, earth method, metal method. Well, they didn't have any metal methods, but yeah, you get it. But now they're called scamps, and these are basically, I believe these are, if you're taking an elemental scamp as your familiar, what needs you need 5 abilities, and it just goes through what you would need to take if you take a elemental scamp as your familiar. And on to backgrounds. There's 6 new backgrounds. Guess what? There's one for every plane. Done. And there is some uncommon and rare backgrounds. Obviously GM approval necessary for some of these. Anything that says uncommon or rare. Now we get to the 2 new lineages. So lineages is a weird thing. Not weird, but effectively you pick an ancestry. You pick any ancestors you want, and then you can apply a lineage to that ancestry. Now you're only allowed to have one, and once you pick it, you can't change it. The idea is that you have some sort of blood or connection to, like, the elemental plane of metal down in, many moons gone by, and then when you popped out, you had metal bits, or you had wood bits. Now they already have effectively genie kin. These are what they are. They effectively have genie kin for all the other elements. So they have fire, air, earth, water. So these are the 2 for metal and wood. But this is the wood one. This is the wood genie kin. And just like any other, obviously both of these I believe are uncommon. And just like any lineage, you can take any feat when you're taking your ancestry feats. You can take any feat that you would take from your current. So if I'm a human and I decide to put the lineage of the Ardante, Geniekin, I could take any human feats. I could take any Geniekin feats. And I also can take any feats that are in this book for the Ardante Geniekin. And there obviously is one for the metal, the Talos Geniekin. This is the same thing. It's you basically take on effects and appearances of the little bit of metal as you're going through. And like I said, you could be a dwarf. As you see here, you could be a dwarf and then have this applied to you. Basically, so you're picking it as your character, or as you can go on. So there's a bunch of different. You can even have natural magnetism and cast spells that from the magnet. A couple of magnet spells from the Secrets of Magic. They do give us a new barbarian elemental instinct, and here are the rules for that if you wanted to use it. And obviously, all this stuff is available on Archives of Nethys if you wanted to look any of this up before you picked up this book. And here's a little bit of changes on how the elemental spell works. Now, they have the elementalist archetype, and here are some adjustments for for that archetype, because obviously things change, and then now there's 2 new elements, so there's going to be more spells that they have access to. So there's just a little bit of just adjustments here, and like some verbiage replacements or verbiage additions. So it lets you add metal and wood to your elemental confluence, and just like it just adds more. Effectively, just adds more and cleans up some stuff and uses some of the new verbiage. Obviously, this is the archetype for the Kineticist. Yet again, we're going to take a stop here and look at this beautiful artwork. This is the plane of air. This is lore about the plane of air. Yet again, this is information you would definitely need. And I hope that they come up with an AP that goes in you shifting through the planes if they haven't already from the old one. But this is information that you would really find useful if you're running a game that is shifting back and forth through, or maybe even starts or ends in one of these planes of existence. One of the elemental planes of existence, I should say. So this is only about the elements. And here we're going to go through, we're going to skip ahead to a little bit of lore. I'm going to describe a little bit of lore about this. So the way they describe the lore of the planes is that each plane effectively had 2 deities that were part of that plane. And they were effectively in opposition to one another. And in layman's terms, you can say that there is a good one and a bad one. That's oversimplification. That's 100% oversimplification. Don't yell at me in the comments, but I'm trying to make this video not 4 hours long. But effectively, they have a good one and a bad one. And for a while, some of these elementals were basically the elemental deities were bound up, and they were not able to. And this is one of the reasons why the metal and wood planes were kind of non-existent. They weren't non-existent, but they were kind of smushed together and kind of like suppressed for a while until the Concordance. You'll read that in the lore if you want to read it. The Concordance and the Concordance of Elements faction and the Pathfinder Society work together, and they free them up. And now we have the deities for the planes. Now each one is going to have 2. Obviously, it's like I said before. And we're going to look at a couple of different things, and something that Jared and I see you. Jared and I argued about. Here are the listings for the 2 deities for the plane of air. Now, how can you tell they're good or bad? We can use game mechanics to figure this out. Now, obviously, there's lore here, and then we can read it. But even if you just at a quick glance, you look at the anathema and you basically look at the edicts and the anathema on both of them. And here's another really cool thing: the divine font. So if I'm a cleric and I have the divine font ability, can I heal you with my free spell slots, or can I harm with my free spell slots? That kind of gives you a really clear indicator of, hey, this guy wants me to hurt people, this guy wants me to heal people. We can kind of figure this out pretty simply. I know there's lots of lore here. I encourage you to read it. We also have a divine sanctification. This is the thing that Jared and I argued about to basically ad nauseum before we recorded a video, and we kind of joke about it. Is, do you have to sanctify as a cleric? Now, this one here says they both say you can choose unholy, you can choose holy. So we know that this one kind of focuses on vitality effects, and this one focuses on void effects. Take that as you will. Effectively, good guy, bad guy, but they work in direct opposition to one another. And this is how the planes function: is that these 2 are in balance with one another. And then the reason that those planes were suppressed is that everything was out of balance because some of these deities were sealed away, and that has been rectified in the current lore. And then obviously you have all the other stuff. You have your domains, you have your divine skill if you get that, you have your favorite weapon, you have all the cool stuff, the things you can do and the things you must do and the things you can't do, your anathemas and edicts. And also if you have, let's see, when casting the avatar spell, this is what you get when you get these. If you focus on this god or this god, this is for clerics who are casting the avatar spell, or anyone who has access to the avatar spell, really. And then we have specifically air spells. And there's a lot to go through this book. Like I said, we're not going to go through every single spell, and I wish I had the time to go through every single spell. So we not only have air spells, we have new items that are focused on from the plane of air. And I really do enjoy, we'll just skip ahead here. I really do want to look at the border of this page. It's the little bit of rocks here and the swooshing air, and then we're going to jump over fire. Look at how that border changed, and that border changes for every single section of the book. This is the water section. Look at that nice border here. We got that fire border here, and got some fire items. So not only, so this is a book for everybody, for players who want, maybe they want to play the Kineticist, or maybe they want to grab some more of those magic items that maybe they're going to the plane of fire and they want to pick up some things that maybe protect them. Maybe they want to go to the plane of water and they want to pick up some fire items that maybe help fight those water creatures. So this book has and you want to summon some creatures. Maybe some of these creatures are summonable, and you want to expand what you can summon either as a summoner or maybe a divine or a spell, especially an arcane spellcaster, and summoning elementals. Maybe you're a druid, you want to summon some elementals, and you can summon some of these creatures. Obviously, you wouldn't be able to summon the Vault Builder, because that's kind of quite high level. He just beats people up. So one of the things that I wanted to talk about when we're talking about divine sanctification, and certain gods may demand that you sanctify, and they force it, and then other gods may not allow you to sanctify at all. So let's look at those two, if we can find them both. All right. So as I was talking about with divine sanctification, where we don't know much about divine sanctification. All we know right now is that some deities can give you the option that you may sanctify or not. And then some deities require you to sanctify. And then some deities may not give you the choice. They don't have sanctification for those gods. And we see this example here in this book. So we're going to swim over here, and these are the earth, basically the two vying earth deities. And we have the crystalline queen and the fossilized king. Like I said, these two, generally, the two deities in the plane are in opposition to one another, and they are in perfect balance. Well, they're supposed to be in perfect balance. So as you see here, because this is heal and we can choose holy. Remember, we can choose. This is a choice. But if you look at the negative side, if I want to say it that way, or the void side, this one, the divine font is harm, as we expect, because they're in opposition, and this one does heal, and that one's going to do harm. Must choose unholy, meaning you must sanctify. You have to do it. This god doesn't, it's like, look, if you worship me and you're a cleric, you have to go all the way. You can't half worship me. You can't worship me only to a point and go, well, I'm not really going to sanctify and put myself at risk. Because remember, sanctification puts you at risk of, if a positive or a holy sanctified cleric does something that is getting boosted by their sanctification, you're going to take extra damage. You're going to take extra effects. The effects we don't know, but for the most part, they've definitely stated that it is more damage to someone who is sanctified to your opposition. So if he's sanctified holy, I'm a cleric and I worship this deity, and I chose to sanctify holy, and I cast a sanctified spell on this guy, and this person chose this deity, well, they had to choose unholy, and they're gonna take extra damage. But then that also is a two-way street, and this character may cast stuff on the other side, and I'm also gonna take it since I chose to sanctify. And then we're going to swap over to the wood. And I believe the metal was the same way. And you see the Pathfinder Hero Point cards? We made a video on that. As you see here, these are the wood deities. So we have heal, divine font heal, divine font. Oh, they're both heal. And we said this one, you can choose holy. And this one, you can't sanctify at all. So this is not always a clear-cut difference of like, this is holy, this is unholy. This one doesn't let you sanctify at all, and this one you can choose holy. So this is a choice. And I believe if we go to metal, they're also, I think both of the metal ones don't choose at all as well. This one is harm or heal, but they both don't have a choice for sanctification. So both of these, you cannot sanctify if you worship these deities. So those are the four types of options you're going to see. Like I said, I'm skimming through this a lot just to give you a sense of what the book contains and what kind of uses that you may find from either a player's perspective or a game master's perspective. So we do have brand new wood spells and brand new metal spells, which we'll thumb through those. We'll thumb through the items from metal. How about that? So how about we thumb through the metal items and the wood spells? All right, so here is some of the, yet again, we're not going to go through every single item, but we're going to go through a little bit of the metal items here. There's this new thing called morphing. So the denizens of the plane of metal are creative and whimsical, and the items that they create often shift from one form to another or exist in an eternal flux. These morphic items are found nearly exclusively on the plane of metal. They make their way out, and basically the people take them and sell them, and instead of being made out of metal, adamantine, cold iron, it's made out of this morphing material. And it effectively is a +1 striking shifting weapon, which will make, but only for weapons that are primarily made of metal. It makes sense. And then you get this activate. Once every 10 minutes, you strike with, the effect is you strike with the morphing weapon, choosing one of the benefits. You can increase its reach by, like making it a big ass noodle. You can shift the damage type from your choice of bludgeoning, piercing, slashing. You can take, if the strike hits, you can attempt to disarm or steal from your target immediately after as a reaction. That's cool. I really like the fact that they're going in this direction where they can adding new reactions to items. Gain a status bonus to the damage roll equal to the number of weapon damage dice you're rolling. So as you're gaining, increasing and shifting, as you're increasing your striking rune, so from regular striking, because obviously it comes with it, to greater striking to major striking, this is going to do more and more damage. That's kind of cool. Yeah, resident guitar. You want to be a bard that uses a metal guitar? You want to be a metal bard? Yeah. I think there's a picture, but yeah, there's a resonant guitar right there. Isn't that cool? That's like, I can definitely see a heavy metal band playing with those. Oh, it's got the chain. Oh, yeah. Yep. New character concept. Heavy metal bard in a fantasy world. Yeah. Oh, and there's new ion stone. I want to say spiny lodestone. Let's look at that. Oh, this is a spell heart. Oh, there's a new spell heart. I like the fact that they put them all together, because I know that the way that the items are always separated before, they were separated by category. So you had like the consumables in one section, and then the weapons in another section, and this in another section. And there's not that many items here for each category. So they separated into, these are all the metal items. And they also added in new relics, which is, I believe there's a new AP that's going to be dealing with being mythic or relic. Or relics. So that's kind of cool that they're bringing that back. Relics are always a part of second edition, but it really wasn't fleshed out too much. I like the fact that they're adding to it, because I love to see that system kind of flourish a little more. But yeah, Spiny Lodestone. I get distracted. So it's affixed to metal armor or weapons. It's a perfectly octahedral magnetite that is covered with a hairline layer of iron sand that always finds its way back, even if it's wiped away. That's cool. The spell attack modifier for any spell activating this item is +8, and the spell DC is 18. As we've seen this before, this is just like any spell heart in the game. You can cast Needle Darts, which is a new spell in this book, at page 144, if you want to go look at it. After you cast a spell by activating this thing, your strikes with this weapon deal an additional D4 piercing until the end of your next turn. We've seen this is how basically the spell hearts work. Effectively, you attach it to your armor, and you always get that benefit. So you always get resistance 2 to non-lethal damage and +1 to your athletics check. That's if you equip this item. All the other spell hearts work in a different way, and if you use it as a weapon, it gains the bonus after you cast a spell out of this thing. So this thing comes with a spell, and obviously we just talked about, it comes with Needle Darts, and the greater version has also a once a day as well of a magnetic acceleration. So once a day you can cast a spell, and then it can always cast this spell. Effectively, this is like a cantrip, and this is a slotted spell, or like a once per day spell, like a wand. We have new grenades as well. Ooh, let's look at that. The Spell Sap Grenade. Oh, this is rare. So I have a funny feeling I think I know what it does. No, maybe not. And no, it does what I think it did. So a Spell Sap Grenade deals its listed damage, slashing damage, and splash damage on hit against a prepared or spontaneous spellcaster. The target must succeed a will saving throw against the DC listed, or lose one prepared spell or one spontaneous spell slot. The spell is selected randomly from the caster's highest 3 spell ranks, and then among them the spells prepared in those ranks. So yeah, so if you're a prepared spellcaster, you already have your spells set at the beginning of the day, and then you randomly determine which spell slot, and then in that spell rank, remember rank, not spell level, in that spell rank you determine, so you have like 3 spells in that rank, and one of them is Magic Missile, one of them is Mage Armor, and one of them is Burning Hands. You roll randomly to see which one of those spells gets kaputted after you get hit by this, and hopefully not failure save, but you're probably going to roll that 1. And as it gets higher level, the DCs get harder. And then, but it always just eats bonus spells up. But it's rare because that is detrimental. It's also the fact that it's the top 3 spell slots. So this, even the low level ones, well, the low level ones won't remain in relevancy because the DC will be too low to matter. But yeah, this is cool. If you know, number one, if you let your players use this, make sure your enemies use this too. But we're going to jump straight to the wood spells because we figured we've seen fire spells, we've seen earth spells, we've seen water spells. And then there's maybe new stuff in here and retooled stuff for the new remaster. But we want to see the new stuff that hasn't happened before. And here we go. First thing, lignify. I was going to look at Lotus Walk here, but lignify, that just sounds interesting. Oh my God. This is flesh to wood. This is literally flesh to wood. Oh my God. I did not expect lignify to be awesome. I mean, it is a 6th level spell, but the target must attempt a fortitude save. The creatures with a plant trait have a +2 bonus to this. So going out to all you leashes out there, you're going to get a bonus to this. Let's see the target. So if you critically succeed, surprise, surprise, nothing happens to you. If you succeed, you're slowed for a round, which is pretty bad, but it's a 6th level spell and it only targets 1 creature. So it's a 6th level spell. It's 1 creature and in duration, obviously, I think it's, let's see. On the failure, is slowed 1 and must attempt a fortitude save at the end of each of its turns. This ongoing save has the incapacitation trait. Okay, so incapacitation trait. So the spell itself doesn't have the incapacitation trait, but the failure result part of it does. So basically, if you fail your save against lignification, you're slowed for 1 round, and now you must attempt a fortitude save at the end of each of your turns. That save has the incapacitation trait. Now, what that means is if the person making the save, so I cast incapacitation against your character, if your character's level is twice or more the spell level, so this is a 6th level spell, if your character is 13th or higher, whatever you roll at your save, you're 1 better than normal. So if you fail your save, you succeed. If you succeed your save, you critically succeed. If you critically fail your save, you fail. So it pushes you up 1. So effectively, if you beat the incapacitation levels, it means your level is twice above the level of this effect. You can never critically fail. You're always pushed 1 level higher. Obviously, you can't go any higher than critical success. So critical success is a critical success. But on a failed save, then we'll go back to this, just so now we know what that means. On this failed save, your slow condition increases by 1 or 2 if you critically fail. Successful save reduces the slowed condition by 1. A creature is unable to act due to slowed condition from lignify is permanently non-magically petrified, though it turns into wood instead of stone. The spell ends if the creature magically is petrified or the slow condition is removed. So eventually, if you save all the way down to 0 slowed, you're fine. If you go all the way up to slowed, basically slowed 3 for the most part, unless something weird's going on, you turn to wood. You turn to a tree. And then the critical failure is basically as failure, but you start at level 2, to level 2 slowed. So you're slowed 2 instead of slowed 1. And for those of you out there who will ask, sometimes people ask, well, why would I ever cast this spell at a higher level? Because it has no heightened effect. Incapacitation spells are a perfect example of why you might want to use a higher level spell slot for a spell that doesn't have any other benefit. Rigid form. This is actually a cool beneficial spell. It lasts for 1 minute. Utilize the wood's rigidity to prevent harmful shapeshifting effects. For the duration of the spell, whenever you're targeted by a harmful polymorph effect, you can use your reaction to attempt to counteract the effect. So things that are trying to baneful polymorph, I'm not even sure if that's a spell anymore. I know that it was in D&D. But things that are trying to polymorph you into like a rabbit to get you out of the fight, this will protect you. Well, at least it'll help protect you. Obviously, instead of being 1 minute, if you heighten it, it lasts for 10 minutes. You know, it just gives you more duration and also makes it harder to dispel, like we just talked about. New cantrips. We have a root reading. If there's an unnoticed meme or larger creature in the area, you learn their presence. and they're undetected by you. They're undetected to you. Effectively, you're detecting roots and trees, and also medium creatures. You can. This is a 30-foot emanation for you. You can immediately attempt to seek as an undetected. Well, let's move this over here. As an undetected creature, you basically get bonuses to searching out enemies. Basically, effectively, you almost get life sense, but you're not sensing life. You're sensing effectively them standing in the roots. Basically, the roots are telling you, "Hey, there's someone stepping on my roots. Get him, get him." That's a cool cantrip. Well, utility cantrip. Nothing really out of the ordinary. But we have this timber. Now I'm getting. You say timber as a cantrip, and I know it does damage. I'm getting flashbacks to Valheim and chopping a tree down and having it crush me to death. Game, don't do this to me. Don't make me fear trees again. You create a small dead tree in your space that falls over. Yes, it is Valheim. It is Valheim trees. You can kill people with trees. A 15-foot line, and it's a basic reflex save. Basically, you summon a dead tree, it falls over, and then immediately decomposes. It's like instant tree. They take 2d4 bludgeoning damage with the basic reflex save. A creature that critically fails its save is knocked for a loop, making it dazzled until the end of his next turn, and then heightening 1 just increases the d4s. That's kind of cool. That 50-foot line has to originate from one of your squares. So short range ability, but that's kind of cool. It's really thematic. And another spell to indicate that we may be losing. Now, don't freak out. Look at me. Internet, please. Calm down before I say this. There's another spell that does not give you the plus spellcasting modifier to damage. Does this mean we've completely lost? I don't know. But in the core preview that they gave us 1 cantrip, and they removed the spellcasting modifier to damage. So if I had like +4 intelligence and I was casting a cantrip, usually it's maybe like d4 or d6 plus my spellcasting modifier, so it'll be +4 to damage. There's another spell that shows that they may be getting rid of that. Enhance your calm, John Spartan. But this is just another indication that they may be getting rid of that rule where spellcasters may be losing the plus modifier to damage. I have thoughts on that, but we're going to continue on. So that is the Rage of Elements book. I think that this is a great direction that they're going. I'm not even talking about the rules. It's a great direction because this book, this is the one issue that game companies all over have a problem with. You release things like adventure paths and modules and monster books, all the stuff for the GM. And the GM really is the only one who needs to buy them, because if you don't plan on running, you don't need to know about the monsters. And to some degree, I think you shouldn't be looking at the monsters if you're a player, unless you're looking to summon it for some game reason. If you need to look up something, you go, okay, go ahead and look up something. But I find joy in fighting something that I don't know about. I love learning on it in the game. So I think that's cool. But for the most part, the monster books are for the GM, the AP books are for the GM, the module books for the GM, and then all the stuff that has the class stuff. Magic items, to your point, you could say that magic items are for both players and GM. Player options, race, backgrounds, classes are all for players. And this has all of it. That's the thing. That's the thing I like about this. And when they took this slight direction in Secrets of Magic, and they took this slight direction with the Undead book, because it had a whole module, it had a whole one-shot adventure in it, as well as options for fighting undead, options for playing an undead, and a bunch of new monster undead that you can use in your game. So I really do like the fact that this is an everybody book. If you like anything about the elements, if you like anything about your game going into the planes, if you like your character be from or related to the planes, you want to get the new magic items, you want to explore the planes, this is the book for you. We're not sponsored by Paizo. We bought this with our own money, and I still think this is an awesome buy. This is taking Secrets of Magic to another level, because I really like Secrets of Magic. If Secrets of Magic have more stuff like this in it, I would think that Secrets of Magic book is like the bee's knees, because, yeah. If you, like I said, if you like any of the things that I talked about, I highly suggest you pick up either the PDF or even just take a look at it in Archives of Nethys. If you already have it and you like some of the things in it, if you don't like some of the things on it, throw us a comment down below. And if you like some of our content, give us a big ol' subscribe. But until then, this is Steve from Nothing Venture Nothing Game. May all your die rolls be crits, and may you always roll max damage. See you later.